So why Meftah?
Who's Meftah?
Exactly. So, you know that guy?
Has somebody ever asked you that?
Yeah. Be like, yo, you ever heard of this dude Meftah?
To you?
Like, yo, fuck that guy. So if you see him, he owes me like $7. And if you see him, beat his ass for me.
And what was the response?
And I was like, no, I'm just kidding. I'm Meftah. I owe myself $7.
Let's just get right into it. Hi, Meftah. How you doing?
I'm good. I need $7.
Okay, so for everybody just joining, hi, welcome to another episode of Dance to the Music. This was the intro featuring Meftah.
$7. Who's got it? No, I'm joking.
If you find $7 for him, it's his. He lost it.
Yeah, it's got to be mine.
Gotta be yours in Detroit or in New York. Not for real though. How you feeling? Welcome to the show. This is a good start.
Thank you for having me. Seriously, I'm glad we could like make this happen.
Finally,
we
after
were supposed to do it in Detroit
7 months ago.
Yeah, I wasn't. I was exhausted, and I just wasn't able to make it. And I'm sorry.
The apologies on the record. No, I'm kidding. Thank you for making it this time. I appreciate you for taking the time.
Seriously, I'm glad that I could make it for real.
I hope my voice is somewhere up to par, because we'll try. We try.
It's what's better than par in golf? Eagle or birdie. That's what they call it.
Let's start in the beginning. There was hip hop. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, in the beginning of time.
People know you as like a DJ producer, the guy who sells you the records, sells me the records. But like, tell me a little bit about Little Meftah. Like, how did you get into music? How did you find music? Did music find you to make it more poetic?
I mean, yeah, in a way, music definitely found me. My mom always played a piano, so there was always a piano in the house. And I started like, really the first instrument I played was like drums. So I had a neighbor with a drum kit, and I'd be over there all the time playing on the kit. And my friend's mom, Janice, would be like, stop playing that. And then eventually she got sick of it. So they gave me the drum kit. And I just kept playing and, just started finding people that I was in like middle school with and jamming. And then, I didn't really make beats or sample records or produce per se. So that was probably like 12 or 13. Downloaded Fruity Loops. Kind of figured out how to like sequence and arrange stuff. And then I got my hands on a SP, a 404, which I've had up until like about a year ago or so. And then I sold it to Black Noi, and I think he gave it to Danny Brown. And I'm regretting selling that because that thing is still sick. But yeah, I don't know. My mom had records that she wasn't using. So I just would mess around with the random turntable that I got from a Salvation Army and figured out how to like chop up stuff. And yeah.
So you started obviously very early.
Yeah.
But it was nothing that, like you said, your mom played the piano, had a piano. So it was just something natural that was in the house and there was music around. So it wasn't like a conscious, I'm going to go take piano class and then I'm going to do this and then that. And it was just
I don't know how to read music. I don't know a single note that I'm playing. But I can hang, if I'm playing with like actual trained musicians. Sometimes they'll be like, we're in G. And I'm like, I don't know what that means. Like, you got to show me physically. And then from there, I can, or you can hear, you definitely know when you're not in key.
Do you?
Or at least you better. Yeah, of course. It doesn't feel right.
Okay. Fair enough. I wouldn't know.
No, but yeah, I mean, music is, and then, on the other side of things, like just being Algerian, drums are a huge part of the culture and the prayer songs. And I'm not religious, but my dad is very religious, and him and all his family, they're always playing like the darbuka, and like they like sing all the, I don't know, the prayer songs, and it's just like drums. So yeah, you just kind of naturally figure it out just with the certain amount of exposure, before you even know what it is that you're hearing or whatever. So yeah, I don't know. I guess that's never really even think about it that much. I mean, it's,
it's just
it's
there.
just there. Exactly.
It's just there.
It's
Okay.
just a part
but
of it.
I want to think about. I'm curious, right? Because you also mentioned like, oh, I got my hands on an SP. I had, my mom had these records. I had a turntable. At what point though did it become something where like I can't play one record after the other, and like how did you then?
Oh.
I mean, the question I had here, like, what came first, making music or DJing?
Yeah, production.
Obviously, production,
Yeah,
like,
music.
and like music, making music, playing music, the instruments. But then, how did the DJing part come into play?
Honestly, and this is something I actually had a conversation with Black Noise recently, and we were just saying like, yo, we owe everything to hip hop. I was always making beats, just like hip hop, like beats. And then I just always knew it's like, okay, well, you cut and scratch acapellas and random records. And then, I don't know why. I was just like, well, there was always two turntables in every example of hip hop and everything I ever watched. So, and then, yeah, I mean, like, I think the first party I ever DJ'd was a house party. Shout out to Pat Noel. That's my family. Like me and him go very far back. He's in Detroit. But yeah, he had a house party. We were in high school and I played it and everyone was complaining because they just, I'm playing like my mom's records and they're like, man, no one wants to hear that. And I'm like, well, there's literally only two turntables, so I don't know what you guys want. Pat wasn't complaining, but it was all the other people. I don't blame them. Whatever. But I mean, I honestly, I definitely was making beats for like years before I ever would even posture or consider myself like a DJ, whatever that means. I just, you just play records and play the music and love. So yeah, like in college or something, like when I was like maybe like 17 or 18 or whenever that was, that's probably when I was like, oh yeah, like I'll DJ a party. And it was like a lot of the house parties in Lansing, like co-op, like functions where like you'd have a band play and then a DJ, and I'd be like playing the bass in a band, but then I'm also DJing and stuff. Pretty goofy, pretty hilarious. Lots of formative experiences on the turntables.
Sounds like fun to me.
It was. It was also a struggle,
In terms of?
Just people, It's like they're not used to it, or they have an expectation or some kind of idea of, there's DJ. And it's just like, yeah, but I'm like playing records. And it wasn't like a thing where like, I'm only playing vinyl, like all vinyl DJ set. Like, nah, it's just, I was finding stuff that I really, really liked and loved and learned from. And, honestly, even those years, it was never like, I'm a DJ, like dance floors. Like I didn't even know who Theo was, even though I had Thomas Shue in my life, who's one of my closest friends. Shout out to Thomas Shue. No one in Detroit would be anything if it wasn't for him. And I'll say that on record. Everybody that owes so much to Thomas Shu, and he's the most humble person. He would never admit it, but
He's a sweet guy, yeah.
straight up shout out to Thomas Shu. But yeah, you know, Thomas was in Lansing too at the same time, but he's a few years older, so he had left. I remember when I first moved back to the Detroit area, it was the first time Dion had come over to anywhere that I lived, and he was like looking through all my records. And again, I was always on the hunt to find stuff to sample, like to make beats from. It wasn't ever like, oh, this is ballroom classic, this dance floors, like sound systems. Like it wasn't even a, you know, that wasn't a thing in my mind at the time. It was just like trying to find the craziest sample. But Dion was looking at all my records. He's like, yo, there's cuts on here. And I'm like, I didn't even know. For real. But, you know, yeah, just over time, you know, when you get hit up to play parties and yeah, whatever, you know, and then it's like, okay, yeah. You know, from there, it's like, all right, yeah, I know what I'm here for now.
You're a DJ now.
Yeah, I mean, both. It's both, you know. I still consider myself a producer and musician first, DJ second.
Gotcha.
No matter what.
Okay. How do you, if people ask you specifically, maybe non-music people, right? How do you describe the music you're making?
It's a loaded question.
It is.
I mean, I don't.
Like you know, people might think genre,
yeah,
style, or whatever.
Exactly. And I was just gonna say, definitely don't subscribe to genres. You know, obviously, it's like, okay. For me, it's like it's either funky or it's not.
If you have worked in record stores, you work in record stores. In what section you put your music?
I don't know. I mean, I put it in local. No. But like, obviously, it's very jazz influenced, hip hop. Like, there's a lot of swing, a lot of percussion. I'm not always in like a, you know, and again, I don't even know what time signature I might be in sometimes, but it's definitely never just like in 4 or whatever. Maybe it is just in 2. So that could be 4. I don't know. The math, I'm not keeping track, but you know, people call it broken beat, people call it soul, people call it, you know, new jazz. I don't know, you know. It's like it's kind of up for interpretation and maybe in the context. I mean, the last record with Idea on Theo's label, that's like R&B sort of. I mean, that first track, that's a straight beat. That's a straight chop. I'm not going to say where it's from, but if you know, you know. And if you don't know, you better go to a record store and figure it out. But yeah, and then but then there's the Align track, which is like kind of like a slow burner, maybe house. I don't know. That's up for the listener to decide.
Fair enough.
But yeah, I mean hip hop.
Because that's where it started.
Yeah, exactly. You know, that can mean anything. So that's the most direct, non-direct answer I can give you.
That's cool. I'm fine with that. Maybe my other question is, we just spoke about it earlier very briefly. I was fortunate to witness a jam session at your house earlier this year with a bunch of homies.
Yeah. Shout out to Terry, by the way.
Shout out to Terry and the Rap Music Cafe.
Yeah, Rap Music Cafe. We're in Brooklyn. We're in Bed-Stuy.
Terry was there too.
Yeah, Terry was there.
We, by happenstance, ended up in there with you, Thomas, a bunch of other musicians. I forgot who else. Caesar.
Ben Hickson. Yeah, Toribio was there.
And
Stoney.
The reason why I bring this up is because obviously me just sitting down and watching everything, right? I'm like, in the first 5 minutes, I was like, ooh, it's like the Muppet Show. Everybody just going.
Not the Muppets.
And then now back to my questions, right? Is this your usual approach? Like doors open, turn the machines on, and like just straight to it and like see what happens?
Yeah.
Or are there different methods, different approaches to what?
I've never, not a single time in my life have I ever sat down at the studio and I'm like, oh, I'm going to make, because again, no genres. Genres aren't real. Like those are limitations essentially, in my opinion. But I've never, ever, and to me, it's kind of corny. No offense to people that do that, but you know, open yourselves up, be an antenna, be the conduit. Whatever happens runs through you. You know, it's a download, it's a message that happens. But I've never sat down and been like, I want to make house music, you know, which is like, that'd be crazy to me. I don't know. That's insanity to me, because you failed to do the thing, like, you know, complete the mission. Like you already set yourself up for failure. Rather, you might not fail, you might make something crazy and it could be beautiful, but you know, it's just like, you know, and there might be things that I'm like, okay, I've been playing this on the piano for a minute, okay, I'm gonna decide to record today. I don't record every day. I might play the instrument for like 2 hours straight, and then I'm just like, okay, I'm done, just leave, doesn't matter. But yeah, I don't, that was a very normal, like, especially when there's other people too. And if there's someone that comes in, like, no one's stepping foot in my studio or my house if they're like, well, I wanted to make a R&B track. I'm like, I'm not, this is not the space for you then. Because it's like, yo, I grew up jamming with people, like straight up, we'll just be playing whatever, and then you find a place that you lock in with other musicians. It's conversation too. If one person comes in and they're like, I have an idea of what I want, it's like, you're not even open to conversation then. So especially if there's like 7 of us in the studio, it's like, I guess forget us then, you know, what about all of us? So you know, I want to always make anything possible to happen. Like it's, and you never know. You could be playing something with like 4 other people for like 3 hours straight, like the same groove, just whatever. No one changes anything. No one does nothing different. You're locked in. And then literally into the 4th hour, someone does one random thing different. And it's like, that's it. Like, forget everything else we were playing. You know, we weren't even, and again, nothing is planned, but it's like, that definitely was not in the plan. 2 hours ago, we weren't even doing anything like that. And that's sometimes where like the coolest thing happens, where you're like, yo, okay, now I'm hitting record. Because sometimes, you know, some people are like, yo, just hit record, you never know. But for me, I'm again, you know, there, and then you notice this with a lot of other producers and people who, you know, want to make beats now all of a sudden. It's like, if you didn't grow up playing in bands and with other musicians and stuff, you know, because like, it's never random either. Yes, you'll get into a jam session and it's not planned or anything, but if you get somewhere, everyone should also find that thing that they're playing, and it's like, all right, remember that. And then it's like, okay, let's perfect it. Okay, let's fine tune it. Now we hit record. I said this one time, but on all my records, none of these, there's no one's noodling around. Like, every note that I play is very intentional. And there's a reason why it's recorded. It wasn't a mistake. It wasn't an accident that was like, man, that sounded cool. It's like, no, I might have flubbed up on what I was playing on the keyboard lick, but I actually like that, so I'm going to play it again and again and again and again and again, and then you hit record. Because, you know, and again, we're recording digitally, so it's not like we're limited on tape time. But still, you know, I'm limited on space on my computer. I don't have like huge hard drives, and my shit crashes. So I definitely can't record everything. you know, and also I don't want to. It's not the point, you know. But yeah, that session was definitely a very, you know, and I'll probably, with, you know, none of those things that we recorded. I don't even know if we did record anything, but they'll probably never, you know, there's no reason. There's no reason to do stuff. You don't have to put everything out.
Yeah, I was happy that I was there.
No,
just to witness
yeah.
it, you know. And I think Terry had an edible, so he was very happy, man.
Oh yeah, he
I
was
was
really
just like,
happy to be there.
Okay.
No, I
you know,
wasn't
and when I said
expecting to
Muppet
see
Show,
him.
I was not trying to be funny, but you know what I mean.
I mean, hey.
I'm an unprofessional, so that's why I said that. So I guess I could say like time and repetition is of importance.
Yes. Yeah. You know, I'm not gonna say I'm like James Brown, where it's like the same beat, play the same beat, and you know, if someone messes up, I'm not gonna be upset. But it's also, yeah, it's like, how long can you play the same thing without messing it up, just to see if we're really locked in.
Got it.
So, yeah.
Then I have a question here, or like my note here says Musha Publishing. Did I first of all pronounce it correctly?
Yeah. Musha.
Is that not just, but like, is that your label, or is that the publishing company to your label? Or is it both?
Yeah, it's my publishing. It's also, yeah, the label, I guess, essentially. The music that I put out on my own records, they're published under Musha. I mean, technically, I don't have a label per se, but that is the LLC, like officially. That's like the business and everything. So I would call it Musha, you know.
What do you mind if I ask what it stands for? What does the name mean? Is it a name or word?
Yeah,
or
it's actually, okay, so Musha, it's like how you actually pronounce it. It's not even in the dictionary of Arabic anymore. It's like an older word. And it actually originates from like North Africa and from Palestine, which, you know, when you get into that region, it's a little more specific, older world, at least how I interpret it. But Musha, it means like the commune, like a common shared thing. And really, it was a land system. You know, how land would be divvied up in villages was, at least from my own understanding, based off of your family needs. Let's say you have a family and you got 10 kids versus a family with 5 kids. You'd get like a larger, smaller plot of land, and then that's what you're allocated for a certain amount of time. And then as things grow and change and your family dynamics change, maybe one of your kids gets married and has their own family, so now you have less children that you're responsible for. You know, you go back into the community and everyone's like, oh, okay, you don't need as much land now, blah, blah, blah. This family is a new family. They need a portion of this. And that's what that is, the Mushat land system. Like, that's what music is for me. And like anyone, and I haven't like published music for anyone. Right now, I've only published my own work. But, you know, if anyone's ever releasing music on my label or I'm the one responsible to publish it, it's a common thing. Like, it's no one's going to get more or less percentage of anything. You know, it's just like, yeah, we all did this together. There's 3 of us. We split it evenly, you know. That's just my philosophy with music in general. I mean, unless it's like very obvious, like, okay, I wrote this song, I did all this stuff, and I wrote the lyrics, and I just have someone that I want to sing certain things, or like, yo, I just need a certain instrumentalist to play a certain solo on something. But again, it's like a conversation and a very hashed out, understanding of like who did what. There's no,
Understand.
I'm not about to, I'm not in the business of taking advantage of people who, because that's another thing, is a lot of people don't even have their own publishing, which get your publishing. Doesn't matter how many tracks you make, own your goddamn publishing for everything. That's the only thing I want everybody to do. You can have one beat that you make in your whole entire life. You should still publish it yourself. I promise.
Heard that. Thank you for that explanation. That makes a lot of sense. And for me, the way you just explained that, also based on how you explained your approach of making music in a communal way when you do make music with other people. You also mentioned briefly that you've released music on other labels as well, specifically Sound Signature.
Yeah.
And correct me if I'm wrong, because I know you've worked with the for Sound Signature as well, or like I don't want to say for with, I don't know what the correct term is, with Theo. Besides releasing music on Sound Signature. So whatever the capacity, I'm just wondering what, and also you mentioned at a certain point you didn't even know who Theo was.
Yeah.
How working in that capacity has like influenced your craft as in making music, in the way you release music, right? Put it out there in anything.
I won't say working with him and like having music out on Sound Signature has like changed anything about my approach. Because like I said, even before I ever knew who Theo Parrish was, or had really any kind of like understanding or exposure to like house music, or dance music, whatever we want to call it. I was always making music in this way and always wanted to release music. I didn't found Musha Publishing until I think like 2018. My first anything on a piece of wax was on Moodymann's label, Mahogani. It was the Fiddler remix that I worked with John Cloud. Shout out to John Cloud. And shout out to Kenny. And yeah, I knew who Theo was at the time, at that point, and I got a lot of advice for him because, again, I didn't have my own publishing. Theo was like, get your publishing. Do it. And I eventually did, maybe like a year or so later, and then it was just kind of you kind of realize like how much more autonomy you have when you own your publishing. Even if, I have songs that are on random compilations. There's the one that Volkov on Neroli just put out. There's like, he had the Second Circle. So it was like a 25-year anniversary. I'm not remembering exactly how many years Neroli's been around. But like Joe Clausel was on there. Claude Young is on there. Yeah, there's a lot of really cool people on there. But, even with the songs that are put out on comps, it's not my label. It's not even technically a song that, it's a sub-license from Musha. But that's the thing. It's like, like working with Theo, he was always like, doesn't matter, own your own publishing. And like as a business side of things and how to keep it with a paper trail and all that stuff, I think that's really where a lot of like new information and like knowledge and stuff really came. But in terms of how I make music,
yeah, I think I misspoke. I don't think how you make music has changed. Probably more as in terms of mentorship, as you just spoke about, like maybe learning a little bit more about the business side, or like
and what
also
to
just-
expect in this
exactly
industry.
just being around and seeing
Yeah.
how things work or can work and should not work, and like just observing in that sense.
Yeah. He has, and shout out to Theo. I love that motherfucker. That's he's someone who has spread the knowledge for real about this industry, showed you how shit can go really well and how shit can go very not well. He has been totally transparent and vulnerable, and has revealed a lot of things that you would never know, because not everyone gets exposed to this in the way that he does. So and then everyone also has an idea of how shit goes, and and it's like, it's not a glamorous life all the time. A lot of times you're tested, and a lot of people will try and test you, but if you're on top of everything, and also if you know who you are and hold your own principles, nothing is too much of a challenge, and you can't get taken advantage of. But also, if you're not thirsty for certain opportunities and not willing to compromise, and yes, there's a balance. There's a balance between, okay, I'm not going to get everything out of the situation that I want, but I'm also not going to exploit myself just for an opportunity, or to, it's like, it's not, nothing is more important than like holding true to your principles. And yeah, again, there's a lot of people out here that are super thirsty, and they're doing stuff that's extra goofy, and there's a lot of people who are hungry for a real stake in this thing, and no pun intended, but like, I'm talking about like a steak, like a flag, and this, not like a sirloin.
My mind went
But or you want the sirloin, whatever. But like I'm trying to like make a mark in this and play the long game. I'm not doing anything that's fleeting. I'm not here for a quick, buck or whatever. I'm planning to be here for a very long time. So I'm going to make music that I'm really proud of. I'm not about to make anything goofy. I'm not going to force anything. And I'm definitely not going into the studio being like, I want to make house music. It's like, nah, man. I'm just going to make tracks that I believe in and love and am proud of. So,
Gotcha.
Which
leads me to another question I have for you. That I wanted to ask you also 7 months ago already, especially 7 months ago. What happened 7 months ago? Movement, and we were supposed to do this in Detroit, so that's why. Just to give you a little bit of context
of what we keep referring to.
Yeah. So, you're from Detroit. Detroit has always been a cool place, but it seems, correct me if I'm wrong, having become, again, really trendy and hip, and a lot of people, move there and do all the things. And I'm wondering how you see that. How do you think it will or could influence the creative scene in Detroit, with like more people from somewhere else moving there?
I mean,
and the reason, I'm sorry to interrupt you, reason I'm bringing this up is because I spoke to a mutual friend of ours a while ago, and in relation to, like, I think asking that person of like moving to Detroit and how people move, and he was like, yeah, I wouldn't do it, contrary to that person having said like, yeah, come, da 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 da, and it's like, yeah, and I'm like, what changed? What changed your opinion? And it's like, yeah, because it's not the same as it used to be. The people don't make the same music as they used to be, and it was just like, obviously that's very subjective, right? That was one person's opinion, but I'm wondering how you see or like feel the creative environment of the city now, and how it can change maybe because of that hip factor.
I mean, in my opinion, whenever someone, especially if they move from like a big city like New York or LA or something, or from Europe or whatever, I'm always like, and you moved here to Detroit? Because I'm like, what job do you have? Like, what job are you getting? Because there's not a lot of work. I have a job. I need a job because the music, you know, and honestly, I'm grateful to have a job because then I have choices of what I want to say yes and no to doing with music. I can literally do anything I want with music. I'm not in a position where I'm like, well, I have to take this goofy ass gig. Oh, I gotta go play in a restaurant where no one actually gives a shit. And it's just, you know, and I've been there. I've done it. I used to, you know, say yes to weddings. I haven't done that in a very long time, and I don't need to do that. But what I'm saying is having people move to Detroit is only good, especially when they're coming from a bigger city where they clearly probably had some job where, you know, and I know what rent is like here. It's not easy, so you got to work way harder here for scraps, essentially, for there to be no leftovers, and it's all going to your rent. But if you are going to move to Detroit, you know, you can't. It's one thing when you were originally from Detroit and then you come back. It's another when you've never lived here. And I'm saying here like we're in Detroit, but you know what I mean.
What you mean.
If you've never lived there, you know, you can't just extract from us and from everybody that's there. Because even me, I'm from outside of Detroit. I'm from like Farmington, Southfield area. That's the suburbs. I didn't grow up going to Detroit public schools, but that doesn't mean that I haven't been around long enough and haven't contributed to, you know, the overall, you know, landscape of music and the culture of people that are actually there trying to contribute and give back to the city. You know, and I'm not out here saying like, don't move to Detroit. Like, yeah, you moved there. Come on. But you also need to not try and just take up space and like insert a certain thing that we don't do there, or that we're, you know, it's not gonna always be something that meshes with the lifestyle, because, you know, in Detroit, we do have a little more space and time to experiment and create our own destiny. You know, I mean, like we saw what it was in the 90s and early 2000s. I mean, even in the 80s, what was going on in Detroit, like, shaped, you know, how stuff is interpreted or viewed now, you know. I mean, dude, even going back to the 60s, like talking about labor and unions and shit, which, that's another thing. Read a fucking book about the city, and not a music book, like a book about unions and work and labor and political movements. Because Detroit, this is something I always say, it happened there first before it happened everywhere else. And now you got young people coming to Detroit like happy to be overworked and exploited and have no union representation or anything. Like, they don't know the first thing about work. And then also, again, I'm like, where are you working? Because you either work in a restaurant or a cafe for very little money, or you're working a super corporate gig for the auto industry or like stupid ass Quicken Loans. There's not much in between. So, you know, if you are going to move to Detroit, like, again, I don't discourage people to do that, but definitely, like, come humble and come with your with an open mind and also be ready to be living somewhere that is nowhere. It's like nothing else in the world. Just because we don't have the same infrastructure. We don't have the people there who are willing to, not saying everyone who builds infrastructure like public transportation and shit are good people, but there's still...
Have you been on the MTA?
I trust me, I have. I'm not even gonna... Yeah. But I'm just saying, like, we don't have a train or like there's really, like, the only public transit is the bus, and that's, like, not the most efficient. If you have a job, that is very strict on what time you got to be there, you might have to take an Uber to get there, to be there on time. You never know. It's unpredictable. And hopefully that will change. But again, if you read the history of how Detroit is set up, you'll understand why there's no trains. Like, the auto industry has fucked up a lot of stuff. Like, they have bought patents to train systems that could have been, and shelved those ideas because it's competition to the auto industry. I don't know. There's a book called Detroit, I Do Mind Dying, from the 70s. Very important. Probably one of the most important historical, like, modern history books of Detroit.
Oh, cool.
Explains a lot of stuff. Yeah. But yeah, and I mean, okay, the economy of the music industry specifically, it could change if people who moved there are actually trying to do stuff that benefit the city of Detroit. Like, it would be awesome if we actually had a culture of people giving a shit about sound and sound systems, but unfortunately, we don't really. There's really only a handful of us who even ask what kind of mixer are we using or who's doing sound. Most DJs and stuff, they'll go and just be cool with whatever mixer is right in front of them, and just they think that that's their only option and that this is it, but it's not. And that's the one thing I really appreciate about New York is you have a history of people being like, well, if you run it through this mixer, have it running through this amp rack, all this is on there, and we got these tweeters and blah blah blah. That would be awesome to have in Detroit. And yes, it's sort of slowly changing. There's a couple of people, but there's also people who have been doing it for a long time. Shout out to Mark Duncan.
Right, I've heard the name before. Plenty of times.
There's people who have been around, but they get, pushed to the wayside because, there's just, it's like when people don't care about that stuff, it's, it makes it harder for people like Mark Duncan to have, like, the influence that he maybe used to have or should be having. Like, if people are smart, they would hit up people like Mark Duncan. But sometimes people aren't smart. I'm not going to say what I think they are, but I'm just going to say they're not thinking. And they could think a little harder.
That's a very diplomatic answer, I guess. He kept it cute, but I think we understand.
Yeah.
Given the rich history and legacy from Detroit, and couple that with what you just said about if people moved to Detroit and what it would do, do you wish to see certain things accomplished by yourself and your peers or like your contemporaries as part of like that, a continuation of the rich musical history of Detroit?
Yes, of course. But what I really want to see is that we don't just repeat history or try and copy what's been done. certain stuff in Detroit has been done. You know, respect to all of our OGs and our elders who really walked. So motherfuckers like me and Dion and Thomas and Julian and all these other DJs and producers, now we can full on sprint because those motherfuckers went through the trenches to even establish any kind of presence that, you know, they have now. But I don't want to see any of us like repeat and just copy and try and duplicate what's already been done, because a lot of people do that and they're not pushing the envelope. So I would love to see, for all of us who are planning to be around long time in the future, I would like to see us have our own contribution. You know, that's another reason why, like, the one thing I will say when it comes to my own music, I might not say, this genre, that genre, but it's more so I'm confident in saying, like, I'm definitely not making shit that's already been done. I'm not like, I'm going to make house music and techno because I fetishize a certain idea of what Detroit used to be or whatever. It's like, no, I got something to contribute to the conversation too. It might not be what these Europeans know of Detroit from back in the 90s, or what people in New York or even people in Detroit think of what techno and house music was. It's like, no, I'm gonna make my own interpretation and have my own experience and relationship to this music. And it's still coming out of Detroit. It doesn't matter if it's house or techno. I'm still there, and I'm still planning to live there and do my whole life there. My family is there, so I gotta be there. But, like, you know, it doesn't make what I'm saying any more or less valid just because it's not techno or house music. But, you know, that's I just hope, like, everybody realizes that, like, you don't have to do, or you don't have to give into the idea of what people think Detroit is by still being something from Detroit or contributing to the sonic landscape that Detroit is, you know. Because regardless, if you're from Detroit, you're from Detroit. No one can say shit about it. So I don't want people to pigeonhole themselves or get trapped into this idea of, I got to pander, I got to, entertain a certain thing. Like, fuck that. I'm not going to do that. I actually don't give a shit what anyone expects things to sound like. You either want some real shit or you don't. And if you don't, then I don't have anything for you. You know. And I just, that's kind of how, that's really the only thing I hope people eventually understand, or the people that do understand it, I hope that their shit comes out to the surface and doesn't get lost in the vast array of sounds and humans and people that are from there or moved there and participate. Because there is a ton of music that people are making, and there's a ton of real motherfuckers that are literally just doing it from the heart, and they're not about, the posturing of I'm a, like, they just make the music. And if you're actually listening to shit and paying attention, like, you'll come across it. And I just hope it gets easier for those guys and girls and just the people in general, whatever. Yeah. For their music to get heard, or they to have opportunities, that some of us are blessed to have, for reasons I have no idea why. Like, the universe.
Whatever you call the universe, right? Thank you for that. I do want to talk, or I kind of asked a similar question to a lot of DJs, whether you consider yourself a DJ or not. But I've heard you play many times, and one thing you do is like people dance when you play. So what does your perfect dance floor look like, and then how does that influence the way you play, if it even does?
Well, the dancers always, you, all of you, and shout out to you and all the dancers, because as a DJ and as a person who gets asked to be responsible for holding the music down for any sound system and dance floor, we need all of you. We need you. And it's more so, you know when you're not beating it when the dancers are sitting down. That's something that was made very clear to me, just by talking to people like Garrick. Shout out to Garrick. And a bunch of other dancers in Detroit in general. It's like, you got to switch something up if they're sitting down. Hopefully they're never sitting.
To be fair,
pray.
Sometimes we do need a little break.
Yeah. That's another thing.
Not every break is a bad break.
No, that's true. That's true. But the perfect situation is that, no one's able to take a break because it's so good. Like, you literally only need a break as a dancer because you're sweating. And actually, the last time I was at Motor City Wine, Dion was playing. I was there with, like, Mark Grusain. Garrick was there. There's a few other dancers. But, I actually dance as well. Like, I love dancing. There's a lot of DJs or people who say they DJ and say they love music, but they're always sitting on their fucking ass and not dancing, not even a drip of sweat. And I was kind of fucking around, but I was also serious. But, I kept walking up to these two people from New York that were in town, and I was like, what's a DJ if they don't dance? Mid-dance fucking sweating because Dion was going crazy, playing cuts. And also, I hadn't been to Motor City One in a minute, and I was just in a certain headspace where I was like, it's like you got to let it out and sweat it out. But, I really do believe that, like, and you don't have to be the most technical. It doesn't matter, because there's no rules for anything. But I just find it really hard to believe someone really loves music, all sides of music, especially if they're going to be like, I DJ. I want to be responsible to...
I play dance music.
Right. Start really questioning shit. But, it's like, it's for real. It's like, you say you love music, you have to love all sides of music. And again, you got to think what the 5 pillars of hip-hop are. Dancing is one of them. And you can't forget that. Especially someone like me who's like, I owe everything to hip-hop. I owe it all to hip-hop. Like, everyone I know, everyone I've ever met, every beat I've ever made, every track that's ever gotten published, anything that's on records, any opportunity I've gotten to play out and share my relationship with music, I do owe it to having a relationship with hip-hop in the beginning. So, the perfect dance floor is that, literally the only reason someone's sitting down is because they need a breather, because they're getting a whole fucking life workout. Like, not just a physical workout, but, like, you're getting a mental workout. And it's a release, and it's not just one generation of people, it's multiple generations of people, because that's the thing, music is timeless, so it'll relate to everybody if they really love it. And if it's funky, if you're playing some square ass shit, not everyone's gonna feel that. Fucking blips and bloops.
Blips and bloops. Okay, no blips and bloops.
I mean, it can blip and bloop, but as long as it's funky.
Gotcha. So in that regard, name me 3 of your dance floor tracks that obviously are non-blip and bloopy. Or a track that you like to dance to.
Man, honestly, anything from Mike Huckabee. Rest in peace. And honestly, I've only started to come across some of those Harmony Park records, the Deep Transportation stuff. Like, you don't really see those in Detroit. But yeah, like records from him and Rick Wade, amazing. Amazing. There's like that One Track Mind. There's you know, a lot of Digo and Coyote stuff is always super crazy and beautiful because that's also not just like
Funky.
I mean, those guys are playing the instruments. Like, those guys are nuts. And also have a long history of being connected to Detroit too. You know, a lot of people don't realize it, and I remember even Dion pointed this out to me, but like, you have the classic Detroit song Timeline by Underground Resistance. Everyone knows that song. On the B side of that, it's a 4 Hero remix.
Oh shit, I didn't know that either.
2000 or 2001. What year did that come out? But like, you know, it's, I mean, and I understand, you know, Mike Banks and them, like, they were very close with like the drum and bass and the broken beat stuff. But yeah, you know, so obviously you got the people in the UK like West London who were at the forefront of dance floor music and sound systems and stuff, which obviously out in the UK it's like an extension of the reggae shit and dub. But of course they would tap in with Detroit. It like,
yeah, even if you owe it all to hip hop, even J Dilla's album came out on BBE.
Exactly.
His debut album. Debut? Whatever
yeah,
the word
the
is,
welcome,
you know.
yeah, debut, yeah. That was his first actual solo album. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, Welcome to Detroit.
Anyway, you gave me like artists. I'll let that slide. You didn't give me any tracks.
I know.
But can you give me one? Just not like doesn't have to be your favorite. First one that came to mind because I know the head is spinning right now.
There's a lot though. I'm honestly, it's like trying to think. Yeah, One Track Mind.
One Track Mind.
Yeah. Which, you know, that's the Harmony Park shit. Also, there's like a couple of like Ron Trent remixes that he did for Amp Fiddler. Those are crazy. There's a lot of random records
that if you ever going to hear Meftah play, you might hear.
You'll most likely.
And you should dance to them.
Most
I mean,
likely.
if I have to tell you you should, then I don't know. I shouldn't be telling you that.
You shouldn't have to. It should just be an innate thing that happens naturally.
Right. I have a few more questions, but we're pressed on time, so I'm going to have to keep it for
That's okay.
off the record. Or maybe for part 2 at some point.
Yeah.
Or
whatever.
Whatever we're going to do. We're going to do something at some point.
Or save it for the dance floor. Not the questions, but the, you know.
The dance part.
Yeah.
To, you know, round it all up, any last words? Anything you wish I would have asked you wanted to say I didn't, or?
Honestly, just thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank
for
you.
What?
For just inviting me and giving me a space to talk my shit. Because I don't do a lot of interviews. I don't really talk a lot about what I'm doing. I let the music speak for itself. But
thank you, then.
You know, yeah, no, and just thank you to anyone who's maybe watching this or has taken the time to listen to me DJ or buy the records. That's what keeps this whole fucking thing going. So, yeah, just thank you and thank you.
Subscribe, you know.
Yeah,
you
like,
you need to do all the
what
things.
What do they say on YouTube?
Like, comment, and subscribe.
Right, yeah.
For whatever it's worth. No, seriously, please do so. No, But thank you, Meftah. I appreciate you.
Yeah, no, I
know
appreciate
it's
you
a lot
too.
of time, it's a lot of energy. So thank you.
It's energy well spent, though. So for real.
Thank you.
And you're the homie, dog.
I'm the host.
So we don't need to explain.
Appreciate you. No, but
nothing.
I do want to make sure that you are aware that I appreciate you coming down.
No, thank you. Seriously. Peace.
Hope you find those $7.
Someone in there has it. Someone owes me $7. I don't know who. But I'm when I come back to Detroit, they're gonna give it back to me. You hear that, America?